Welcome to Ask a Dyer. I've recruited a couple of my pals to send over some of their burning questions about my road trip stock yarns and my making process. Most of these are fun and silly, so I hope this is enjoyable and generates some smiles, but let's jump right into their questions. Question 1, favorite yarn. I don't have a favorite yarn. That would be like choosing a favorite kitty, and I certainly can't do that. All yarns have a purpose, and that's making. So I completely support choosing the best yarn for the project. Whether that be natural or synthetic fibers, there is a place for all creativity. Question 2, favorite color. My personal favorite color is purple. However, you would never know that if you looked in my closet, which is mostly blue. But I can say from experience that my best-selling road trip sock yarn color is usually blue, and the best-selling kitty-inspired colors, it's got to be a tie between orange kitties, gray tabbies, and torties. Question 3, what's your go-to project? Socks. Of course, socks. I have a house rule for Socket Sundays. Each Sunday I work on a me project. Sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's an afternoon. Usually it's closer to 10 minutes, but I found that my maker mind really needs to have designated creative time. Question 4, books or music while dyeing? Yes, all of it. Yes. I tend to quickly tear through audiobooks. I'm at about 140 for the year and on target to surpass my record from last year. Woohoo! I just finished A Fever in the Heartland and started The Heart of Winter. Music-wise, my neighbors know exactly how old I am from my playlist. Before 10, we're going to be hearing more instrumental music with things from Lindsey Sterling, Moby, Panic at the Disco, Glass Animals. But once I'm finished with coffee for the day, which is usually around 10 o'clock, it's 90s hip hop all the way until school pickup. Question 5, how long does it take to dye one skein of yarn? I often laugh. The fastest part of my dye process is actually getting the yarn from Europe. First, I unbox and put zip ties on each skein. Next, they're soaked in citric acid, and I usually leave those in the acid bath for at least an afternoon, sometimes a little longer. Now, my road trip sock yarns go through several stages of dye baths to create the depth of color I favor in my finished stitch project. I'm looking for big contrast within one skein and try my best to have lighter areas side by side densely concentrated dyes. I go back into each pan to isolate the speckles to really help bring out those colors as well. Next, the pans go to heat, and I take advantage of the heat with time combo here, and I have the pans heated for about 24 hours. After that, it's going to be bath time. I hand rinse each skein in wool wash, then line dry. Fortunately, here in Denver, there's not a lot of humidity, so things dry really fast. If I have a rain or snow day, it throws me a curveball. Question 6, what type of dye are you using? Most of the time I dye animal fibers, so I'm using acid dyes, but once a year, usually in the spring, I will do a turnaround and do plant fibers, and so I will switch to Procyan dyes for that. Question 7, how do you select colors? Well, if I could get away with adding hot pink speckles to every single skein, I totally would. I love those big bright pops of color, but maybe I could make my own collection that way. Overall, my road trip sock yarns are inspired by the thrill of a good road trip adventure. I dye these in small batches and offer custom collections based on each location. I work with shops to create their custom collections based on what they're looking for. Sometimes we have photo inspirations, sometimes we just have a vibe, sometimes I do a deep dive into local and regional history. I like to joke that souvenir skeins don't count as stash, but realistically, I love finding souvenir skeins when I travel. So. Oh, one more question. Why road trip sock yarn as your business name? Well, I can't sit still ever, much less in a car. It's just not possible. So most of the time when I'm road tripping or traveling in general, I have to have a stitch project with me, and I'm sure that's probably relatable to many makers. But the space in the car can often be tight, and I would just grab my sock sack with my small project in there, and it felt very comfortable and very logical for road trip sock yarn. I was always working on socks anyways. So thank you for joining me. Oh, this was kind of fun. Maybe we'll do more of these. This is great.